We're still at the beach. We haven't changed clothes in 4 days. Yeah, I can smell you, Mr. Pink.
Welcome to Chapter 1, Lesson 5. Part 1 of 2. This one has 2 pages. 2 pages.
2 pages.
So you heard it. Don't come in with a 1 page of notes. It's 2 pages.
It's that page and then the next.
Does that mean we want like double the tweets?
Yep. So the first one, 2 tweets. Second page, 2 tweets. Splendid.
So this is about the end of Reconstruction. So it, spoiler alert, Reconstruction does not go well. We're supposed to be brought back together. It doesn't end well.
No.
No. So this is how it ends.
It's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Notes. Copy them down
Make them bigger.
first. The end of Reconstruction.
Yeah, make sure you put that in. We're tired of this.
Always have a heading for your notes.
Yeah, make them take notes like that. That's cool.
Teeny tiny. Here I am.
Not this again.
Help me.
Pause it right now.
Now! You just aren't getting this right, Mr. Pink. I know you're looking like you're not doing anything and you're frozen, but it's not working.
And unpause. Okay. And, don't forget this part in the middle. That is the era of Jim Crow. Pause it now. Unpause. Good.
Your hand was shaking too much.
Reconstruction has been going on for a few years. Starts in '65 as soon as the war is over. And things are going fine after Andrew Johnson, who you described as a loser. Johnson's VP was impeached. They impeached.
That's his favorite Ben & Jerry's ice cream flavor.
They dunked him in peaches.
Impeachment.
Impeachment. They impeached him. He was a loser. Didn't get kicked out of office, though. But no one wanted him to be president. But good rule of thumb, if you want to be U.S. president, what do you got to do? You win a war, you'll often become president. So who's the next president? Ulysses S. Grant. Mr. What is he, $50 bill?
Mr. Grant.
Mr. $50 bill. The new president for 2 terms. He has some corruption issues relating to the Transcontinental Railroad, but he's okay.
He didn't know what was going on.
But the guy after him has some issues. This stuff might be a little hard to remember. Lincoln was a Republican. Many people in the North were Republican. Things have kind of flipped a little bit now. Republican, Democrat, they're not the same parties really. But Lincoln was a Republican. Grant was a Republican. And the guy who's a Republican after Grant running for office is Rutherford B. Hayes. And in the South, meanwhile, we had African Americans running for public office, but that starts to decrease as states come back into the Union, they're readmitted, and Democrats start to win elections, and part of that is done through violence. So violence is used to suppress voter turnout. So if you were a black person in the South, who would you probably vote for?
I'm not voting for anybody.
Would you vote Republican or Democrat?
If I was scared?
If you weren't scared, if you're like...
Republican.
Okay. If you're voting for who you want to vote for, you're voting for Republican. And if the Southern Democrats don't want Republicans in power, what do? They can stop blacks from voting.
Clause.
The literacy test.
And the literacy test where they had it read and write.
Yeah. As a result, the vote is very close between Tilden and Hayes, and it goes into Congress as a tie. In order to win, Hayes has to make a promise.
And that promise is?
The Compromise of 77. So it's the election of 76, and who loses? Who almost loses? Republicans. How do they manage to just squeak by with a victory?
We'll get rid of...
The promise is we're going to end
Reconstruction.
This thing that the South hates it so much it makes them want to...
Spit. Oh,
scream.
And plus the North isn't real happy because this is costing a lot of money to do this.
Let's move on. Let's just forget this whole war and just move on. Let's go.
We have a short attention span sometimes in America for moving on past
What'd you say?
Squirrel. So, the Compromise of 1877 is when Hayes is the president, he agrees to pull out federal troops. Now those troops are gone. Who's there to protect African Americans, the freedmen?
No one.
Nobody. Reconstruction is over. What begins then, and here marked at 78, that period of time is the beginning of Jim Crow. Jim Crow begins, and rights that African Americans had gained through the 13th, the 14th, the 15th Amendment, all of those were lost through Jim Crow law. So Jim Crow, or the 14th Amendment says what again?
That they have civil rights.
Yeah, they have these rights. They have to be treated equally. The key word is there is equally. So you had to be treated equally, but Jim Crow laws say, fine, we'll treat you equally, but
According to our equality.
yeah, we're going to treat you equally, but we're also going to separate you. So you're over there, we're over here. You have a bus, we have a bus. You have a restroom, we have a restroom. You have a fountain, we have a fountain. Equal. You have a school, we have a school. That's yours, this is mine. Equal. But the truth is, when you separate people like that, it's not because you believe they're equal.
No.
There's nobody who likes Jim Crow in the South who thinks, yeah, we're all equal here. They are separating them because they don't think they're equal. But they can't say that. It looks bad, right? If you say...
Well, they get in trouble for that if they do.
It's against the law. If you say, I'm putting them in that school because they are not my equal and I don't like them and they are whatever, you can't say that legally. Legally it has to be, well, it's equal treatment by the government, and so you're
We're
over
giving
there.
them books. Of course, we're giving them the old crappy books. We're keeping the new ones. Old crappy desks. We're keeping the new ones. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, so it's equal, but it's not. It's not equal.
Jim Crow.
That's Jim Crow. You might ask a question about where it comes from, but there it is.
You can ask somebody else.
And that leads us to segregation and Jim Crow. We'll let you copy these down. Top part first. I'm teeny tiny. Ready? Oh, and go!
Okay, now my nose was itchy, so thank goodness we've paused.
And unpause. And pause.
Pause.
Unpause. So segregation from 1877 to 1965. Segregation is separating people by race.
So the faster people.
Separating people by races.
Oh.
Car races,
Oh,
foot races, plane races, any kind of race. No. You're separating people by what you think races are now. Then they would have said, yeah, these are the races. You are this race or this race. That's what they thought. So black segregation is separating them by race. Jim Crow is targeted at African Americans and is meant to keep them in their social place. It's a social separation. Codes are what the first attempt at separation, and it's a legal separation where there's different laws being applied. There's laws for whites, laws for blacks. And the black codes are meant to put them back into slavery. You can't call it slavery, so you call it things like forced apprentice.
The black codes are an attempt to put them back into slavery. If you have a gun, that's a black code, you're now a forced apprentice. If you are unemployed, forced apprentice. If you're caught drinking alcohol, forced apprenticeship.
So all these laws are placed there to kind of catch you and punish you in a way that you're not going to be having the freedoms you have.
Hmm? But that's not equal, and so the 14th Amendment guarantees equal treatment. That's what gets rid of black codes. The segregation, then, they're separated on race. It's directed primarily against African Americans in America, but a reservation is essentially segregation. You're separating them based on the fact that they're American Indians.
The teacher's lunchroom. Segregation from the students. They're out there.
Boys' restrooms and girls' restrooms. Okay. American Indians were on reservations. They don't become citizens until 1924.
That's amazing.
We apply different laws against the Chinese and discriminate against their immigration. So that's segregation. Now, Jim Crow laws. When the law enforced segregation against African Americans. It comes from a song, Jump Jim Crow, which is a song that kind of captures the way Southerners would have looked at African Americans.
So it wasn't a real person.
Well, it kind of was, but it was more of a character created in a song, and that character becomes the way people in the South look at a black person. It means that they're funny, they dance, they're not very serious,
They're not
and
smart.
that's why I don't want them in my school. That's why I don't want them in my neighborhood. Like, I don't hate them, I don't like them. They're not serious. They're a bad influence to my kids. That caricature is the way that people in the South want them to act. So that Jim Crow is the justification for the laws. It's the way that they think they act. It was upheld by a Supreme Court case, Plessy versus Ferguson. Homer Plessy was legally a black man. He had one great-grandparent who was black, and that means he's technically black.
So you only needed a percentage of past parents, grandparents to be considered black. But he didn't necessarily look black.
Yeah, and so mathematically that doesn't work for us, and appearance-wise it doesn't work. That's part of why race, the way it was looked at, is weird. Because to us, we would say, well, I guess you look white, and if I looked at your ancestor, I'd say, oh, you're 7/8 white, so you're mostly white. But for them, and this is why this is kind of an evil thing, it's an evil thing, it's you've got one drop of this in your blood, and you are poisoned with it. It's being viewed like you've been infected with this. That's why it's not separate but equal. It's not viewed as equal. It's not looked at rationally. It's you have been tainted by this gene, and we hate that, and so therefore you're that. Anyway, Homer Plessy is a black man, technically, and he's on a train, and he sits in a part of the train that blacks aren't supposed to sit on.
But he looks white, so he's allowed to.
But he's knowingly arrested. This is a weird thing. So he has a detective on the train who is supposed to arrest him, and he's hoping that he can make this into a Supreme Court case to overthrow all segregation
So
laws.
it's completely planned out.
So it's planned out. Like, I'm going to be there. If the engineer or the conductor comes and says, all right, do you have your ticket? Here's my ticket. And are you white? And no, I'm not. And so it's set up as I'm going to tell him that I'm black, I'm in the wrong train, the detective's going to come arrest me, and I'm going to sue and say that law is unfair. You can't
No,
sue.
it wasn't just Plessy who planned this either. It was a bunch of people.
Yeah,
who got together.
he had some support, some help, and their plan was, of course this is going to get thrown out, because of course this isn't equal treatment under the law. It all backfires on him, because what happens is, as he goes through the state of Louisiana Supreme Court, up to the U.S. Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court upholds it and says, yeah, that's cool. You can have. You could have sat in the train, you just had a different part of the car that you go in. And instead, when the Supreme Court rules it, they create a precedent that says segregation is okay.
Yep.
And that it's very hard to change things when the Supreme Court rules it's okay. We still have these debates today. So, Plessy versus Ferguson, whenever you hear Plessy versus Ferguson, you should think separate but equal.
Now, Ferguson. Who was Ferguson?
Ferguson was the judge.
Yep.
The Louisiana judge?
Yeah,
Louisiana judge.
Which is kind of a bummer because it wasn't his fault. He was just doing what the law said.
Yeah.
Hey there! It's another person. It's,
Oh, we're not really at the beach, guys.
well, that's the rest of our. That's the rest of our room.
We're in a classroom. The whole time we were in a classroom. You can't.
Blew
It
this.
blew the illusion.
No, we're at the beach.
Yeah, he's on Skype.
Yeah.
No, this is the beach house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at this. The,
We made it to look
the
like.
finest amenities.
We made it to look like a room just for you guys'
Yeah.
sake.
So yeah, Plessy versus Ferguson makes discrimination legal in many communities for 88 years, and it results in unequal opportunities in housing, education, work, and government. So,
Anywhere they could,
in
they made it unequal.
housing, in education, in work, and please update your account to enable third-party hosting images.
What?
What?
Oh, okay, that's just
That
on the
image
screen.
didn't quite make it through from Microsoft Word.
Gotcha.
Whatever. Error 404. So, housing, education, work, and government. Housing, education, work, and government. Hugh, I guess is the mnemonic for that one. Hugh.
Yeah, that's
It's going to be huge.
Hugh.
Housing, education, work, and government. In those 4 areas of life, it's okay to be unequal. That's what Plessy versus Ferguson says. Hugh.
Hugh.
All right, write down. Wait, you're saying 4 tweets?
No.
for each
Oh
page?
yeah, 2 for each page. Right.
2 for each page. So on each left-hand page, you should have 2 thoughts that pop in your brain. Write them down. All right.
Ciao.
Bye.